Okay, this is for comments on file item 9. We'll begin with Greg Zlotnick with San Luis Gulf Mendota Water Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And actually, I'm just commenting on 9D, the current item. Only one comment to provide, and it has to do with page 10 of the detailed comment letter under the water supply section, sub B. The heading of that section says, assess the contributions of water conservation and diversifying local water supplies to reduce reliance on the Delta. It's fine. I mean, I think that's an interest to the council, and you've expressed through the Delta plan, and you want to know how that's reflected in BDCP. Understandable. But then the beginning of the paragraph says, the EIRS does not consider reducing water demands from the Delta as an alternative, which implies that that should be an alternative, a reduction in demands as the way to solve the problem. We disagree with that in terms of the sense of it being an appropriate comment for the council to ask for as an alternative, and that's for two reasons. First, I'd like to remind the council that as the successor to the Bay Delta Authority, you have, in that capacity, signed the BDCP planning agreement. And one of the planning goals is specifically to allow for projects to proceed that restore and protect water supply. So we think there's a little bit of an inconsistency there with asking for a reduced demand alternative per se. Secondly, just from a factual basis, we would argue that the multiple alternatives that have been analyzed and assessed within the BDCP in terms of operations of the facilities include the decision tree and a very broad operational range of potential operational outcomes, which include at the low end an actual reduction in exports from today, which is essentially an equivalent of a reduced demand alternative, if you want to call it that. So just that issue of using the words and saying do it as an alternative, I think the rest of the language in that paragraph talking about, we'd like to understand more of what's going on in the service areas with conservation and things like that in relation to the reduced reliance policy of the Delta Plan and statute. As you know, we've gone around on that policy a lot in the past. And we will continue. BDCP doesn't solve all the problems, and our members and those on the state side will continue to do their water conservation and water use efficiency investments as a way to reduce that reliance to meet those future demands. So we would suggest, I don't know what if you want to get actual language, but just that implication that there should be an alternative that is based upon water demand reduction, we just don't think is appropriate for the council and is inconsistent with what's actually in the plan now. And then, I don't know, now or in public comment, I had a very quick comment about your by the numbers sheet. I'll leave that to you, whether now or later.
For expediency's sake.
Okay, just very quickly, just want to, I think for contextual purposes, it's important to understand that the water storage information you have, which indicates the major reservoirs are all either, San Luis is 53%, but Shasta and Oroville high above 50%. Some might think that implies that, we're well over 50%. Why is that such a big deal? And I think in the context of this unique year after other years, we have to understand that, allow that water is not going to be released and is going to be husbanded for the future, whereas in normal operations that might be available for users. And so in essence, you're going to overstate that. Those numbers sort of overstate the potential deliveries and maybe understate likely impacts going into the summer. And then also this year, as we know, the normal situation would be there's significant snowpack up available that's going to continue to run off into the system, which would bolster those storage numbers, and that's not the case this year. We're well below average in expected runoff, well below 50% in expected runoff to come. So just more context for those numbers so it isn't assumed that, that doesn't look so bad.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say that typically reservoirs on the Sierra side will peak the end of June to the end of July. We've peaked.
Right.
So.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.